Okay, welcome back. This is going to be some late night poker review. Currently 3 a.m. on a Friday night, and I was trying to fall asleep, but I'm not able to sleep, and I'm not really sure why. I took a little bit of a nap during the day, but yeah. So you can see here 2550 and L, 8.5 thousand hands, and I'm showing a lot of green. Showing some nice green. So the USD EV adjusted is 185. The EV BB adjusted is 4.3. But I came to realize that 8.5 thousand hands is such a disgustingly small sample size. So today, this adjusted BB per 100 went from a range of negative 0.9 all the way up to 9.5, back to 4.3, all within 3,000 hands. So I have about 3,000 hands that I played today. You can see it here. So I have these 3 sessions, each one's about 1,000 hands. And let's see if we can get to some of these hands pretty quickly. Put this, actually close that up, open this up. Okay, so we have ace-3 offsuit. And where's my, okay. And whenever I have a hand that that I feel like I completely misplayed, I'm going to make a note about it. I don't know if you can read that. Misplayed donkey hands. Okay, this is gonna be a new thing for me, so that I can keep track, and then maybe I'll make a video at the end of the month, like every 50,000 hands or so, that show like all the donkey plays that I made. Find some serious leaks, I'm quite sure. So I flop a nut flush draw and bottom pair here. I decided to fend the big blind to a min raise when it's 4-way. Yeah, I think that's okay. So I check call. I turn trips here, which is pretty nice. And then I decided to check call again because, I mean, it is possible that he has a flush at this point or a boat. I mean, trip 3s are pretty strong, but it's still like, you know, the 30th nuts at this point. So yeah, I'm not gonna go all psycho ham on this guy just at this time. I would have liked to hit another 3 or an ace. That would have made me feel better. But I decided to lead out. Hopefully get call, or I don't really see him bluffing here. I mean, if he did bluff, it'd be kind of spewy, like a broken flush or something like that. But yeah, he flopped a really weak flush. He's nervous about his baby flush, and I'm a little nervous about my trips. So I think that's a pretty fine hand. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could argue that I should have check called again because I have the option of being raised off of my trip 3s, or he could have like jammed on me and put me in a really, really gross spot. Especially since I have like the nut flush blocker. But at the same time, I can see him value betting like over pairs or strong jack X's. maybe he has. Well, no, he probably doesn't have another 3x. If he did, he'd have 3-5 or 3-4. But there's nothing too wrong with that, I don't think. Next hand, pocket eights. Being squeezed by this player here. And now, I played quite a lot of hands with this player. He does not typically get out of line. He's actually a very solid player. And I would say if there's any other players at the stakes that are winning players, it's this one, this guy right here, and also another guy has Guy in the name. I can't remember this other person's name, but maybe his name is like that guy, or this guy, or this is the guy, or something like that. That's his name. But this player is pretty solid. I decide to call with pocket eights. It's pretty borderline. I don't see this player squeezing too light usually. 8% squeeze, 4% 4-bet. His stats are almost identical to mine, I'd say. He's a little bit nittier, I think. Well, my squeeze is a little bit less, and my 4-bet's a little bit less. But his bet flop is 54. His probe stat's pretty low as well. Like, he doesn't really get out of line. He doesn't get too bluffy. But he bets pretty small. So I'm pretty comfortable calling this one time. And whenever the second jack comes out, yeah, I mean, I expect him to just check down ace highs and things like that. He's not gonna wanna barrel this. If the board pairs, he's good enough to know that a paired board is usually a recipe for having the villain will call down lighter, because, you know, paired board, that's usually how things work. It's not a good bluff spot for him. So I think pocket eights is pretty solid versus his squeeze range on the button. And I was pretty confident that he's not gonna blow me off the hand with something like ace jack or ace queen, you know, if the board is pretty low. Let's see here. Oh, so I'm actually squeezing ace 10 offsuit. But it's, whoa, what? Okay, that was a little bit weird. I got it all fixed though. So I'm squeezing ace 10 offsuit. I completely whiff. But there's really no way for me to win the pot other than to bet. I checked the king on the turn, and I could have actually bet this some of the time, like $14 or so, and it's gonna fold out all of his random ace X's and flush draws and pocket nines and 8, 7, 6s. He's a pretty fishy player, so I don't expect a lot of jack X's to fold, like jack 10s. Jack 10 suited, like jack 10 of spades, jack queen of spades might fold to a bet on the river. But I also picked up a gut shot, a Broadway, and also I have ace high. And if I bet and then I get jammed on, I'm not really going to want to call that. So I actually feel like it's safer just to check behind. I mean, not to check behind, but to check. Hope he checks. I expect him to check most of the time. At this point, because he didn't bet, all the flush draws missed. He probably doesn't have jack king. He could have something like king queen of diamonds, but if he does, then he's gonna call me. But I think this is a pretty decent spot for me to try to just steal the pot. I bet 13. He folds. Pocket 8s or pocket 9s are not typically going to want to call there. I mean, he could have just had ace high as well, because he's pretty fishy. But, you don't really need the bluff to work too often if you just half pot it. So, this player limps. Fester is trying to isolate, it looks like, but I prevent that from happening. I really want to play in a pot versus the whale. Jack King suited seems like a pretty good hand to play against a whale. And I flop a flush draw. So I donk, just to get everybody out if they don't have anything. But if they do, I have a flush draw. And so I decided to check call here. This player bets 8 into 1464, so the pot's 22, 8, 30, so it's 8 divided by 30 is 8, 16, 24. I have like 26%, I think. 8 divided by 30.6. Yeah, 26% equity. The board is paired, which is a little bit nervous, makes me a little bit nervous. But 26%, I have 18% to hit. And a lot of the times if I spike a Jack King, I check, they check, and I'll still be good. So when that happens, I decide to just check fold. I'm not going to get spewy and check raise all in and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I actually probably could have just folded to turn bet, like $8, 26%. I have 18% to hit the flush, and for all I know, he could have like a boat. Actually, a 5 of clubs. 5 of clubs is not a card I want to see, so it's more like 16%, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure I should have called this turn bet. I think I should have just given up on the turn, because I am out of position. If I was in position, it would be better, I think. But I think I'm going to give myself a tick. This is actually part of one of my leaks that I put down. King, Jack, suited, check, call, turn, with flush draw. Okay, yeah. I think I should have just called. I should have just checked folded the turn, especially because the board was paired, and the 5. Well, the pairing of the board took away one of my club outs, the 5 of clubs. Borderline, but just doesn't feel right after the fact. After seeing myself do that, I pot it. I flop the nuts. I really hope he has something here. And I bet the river. I get raised, check raised by 17-13. Kind of a stupid spot to be in, really. But if you look at what happened, the guy limps the small blind here, and isn't check raising me. He didn't bet first. I just don't feel like he has a flush draw. So whenever he check raises me here, I call, and he has ace deuce. It's just so fucking random sometimes. Like, what is he doing with ace deuce here? He doesn't have an ace of clubs. He doesn't have anything other than a bottom pair that he's turning into a bluff. And it's like, does he really think that I'm going to be betting this 3 times with the complete airball? Like, what is he thinking? Again, like, these players are so random sometimes. Like, if he shows up with the flush, you're gonna be like, you're gonna smack yourself and be like, obviously he has a flush. Why am I calling this? But then sometimes you see these type of hands where he has complete airball. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than that was just a silly check raise. For all he knows, I could have. He doesn't know that I don't have a flush, a set, and like top 2 pair and straights and all that stuff because I have a big blind. He doesn't know what my range is. I have 100% range there. I don't know. I mean, I guess I shouldn't bash him too much. He just donated me money. So I have pocket 10s. This player's trying to isolate, I guess, or squeeze the limpers at this point. And this is, I think this is full ring, but it's like only 5-way. And this player's 13-9 over 1.8k hands. And I don't really feel like free betting that range at this point. He seems pretty nitty. And of course everybody calls. Lucky Charms decides to lead into the field. And I think that I should be calling that. When he bets $6, I have pocket 10s. I don't really see myself folding this bet either. It doesn't seem like he has a nut straight at this point. Maybe he has like Jack 9 or Jack 10 or Queen King or something, but I still have 6 outs, so like 12%. I have 12%, and it's basically like 6 divided by 34. 8, 6, 12, 18, 24, 36. I mean, I think that he's giving me a pretty good price here. It's 17.6% equity to call this sizing, and I have like 12% to hit my either my straight or a 10, or he could be a complete donkey and be doing this with an 8x some of the time, perhaps. I'm not gonna check raise or anything because he could have a pair plus a draw or something like that and still have me beat. When he bets $20 on the brick, I'm just gonna check fold that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with how I played. He gave me a pretty good price on the turn. So I don't know why I keep being put in these positions here. I'm being 3-bet. This whale cold calls the 3-bet, and I'm in position. I got the button here versus a whale and a fish. So I'm going to be calling 9-8 suited here. Let's see a flop, see what happens, and we flop pretty nicely. At this point, I'm pretty happy stacking off because I have a straight flush draw. The board's paired. I don't expect him to have a 10x a lot of the time. His 3-bet's 22%, and he's probably going to be betting this flop with a pretty wide range. And so I decided to just basically commit myself here. And this player folds, and I win a nice pot. I win 20, 40 big blinds right there. I win with just a straight flush draw flop raise bluff, which I'm actually really happy about. And like I said, I mean, there's already so much money in the pot that I'm extremely happy if he stacks off with me because I'm basically flipping with whatever he does stack off with me. and there's a pretty good chance he's just not going to call me on that flop. I could have. I thought about probably squeezing the pocket eights here, just collecting all the dead money. Make it like $6.75 or something like that, $7, just to get everybody out. And if I get shoved on, I can just fold pretty easily. But I mean, I guess I was passive, and I was just hoping to hit a set. And I turn a set. And there's no reason for me to lead out. I think that if he has a flush draw or a jack X or overpair, he's gonna bet. I can check raise pretty big. So as it is, I want to give him a chance to bluff, or if he has jack king or king X at this point, he's probably gonna want to bet as well. And so I think that this is actually a really good spot to check raise again, because I'm showing a lot of weakness, and the king might be in his range. And it gives him a chance to just bluff, basically. And look at this, he just bombs the river. This is crazy. He bombs the river for $11. Such a random bet. I'm almost like 99% certain he does not have a set at this point. He could have jack king. And so I don't want to check jam all in, because that would look way too strong. But if he has a ace king, or maybe king queen, he might actually call this check raise. But he does not. I don't think he had anything. Such a big bet. Like, these people put their bluff sizing so big sometimes. So I get limp min 3-bet. Buy a whale. Like a fishy, probably a whale. And I just decide to jam it in. It's whatever. Pocket fives, we're flipping. It's whatever. Next hand. 3-betting, queen king suited for value, 3-way. Sometimes I could probably just check this, just, you know, to balance my checking range. But yeah, so I bet the turn, and this player puts it to $28, which is a pretty big raise. I mean, going into it, he has a full stack, and I do still only have queen king here. And I thought about it for a while, and I'm like, I could probably just give this one up. It's a pretty big pot, but I don't really see him bluffing too often. But I mean, he did make it to $28, which is a pretty big bet. He could have like king 9 or a set 6-9 suited. Maybe he's playing ace king this way. I just didn't feel comfortable with it. So I'm being 3-bet. I have ace 10 offsuit, and I flop top pair, and I'm going to turn it into a bluff catcher. I don't really mind calling the turn, because it's blind versus blind, and you know, it's a 3-bet pot and all that stuff. So he had, yeah, queen jack, and he spikes a jack on the river to beat my ace 10. The board is super drawy here, like clubs and hearts. A lot of ace X's are going to be barreling the turn king. And I have the ace of spades, so it still opens up the club and heart draws. And I'm pretty comfortable just check folding the river if he wants to like jam it or bomb it. Pocket kings. 3-betting pocket kings. Okay, kings versus queens, that's a quick hand. Don't need to talk about that. As you see, I don't actually filter out the hands before I review them. Some of them are just very non-interesting hands. Squeezing pretty big. I probably could have squeezed even bigger. I think, yeah, this was one of my mistakes, is I should have just made it like $8 or $9. Just to get them all to fold, and if they do want to jam, then we can just play a flip or something like that, I guess. But there's already $4-something in the pot. The flop comes 7-4-3. I expect a lot of the time them to be limping these pocket pair ranges, like 5s and 6s and 8s, 9s, a lot of the time. But also, anybody who limp calls a squeeze like that could also have like suited connectors. But there's already 1672 in the pot. There's a $10 stack over here and a $23 stack over here. And I have backdoor spades. I also have overcards to anything that wants to call me like 4s or 6s. I mean 5s or 6s or 8s. Or maybe if they have like a diamond draw at this point. And so I just basically bet I expect them to just jam at this point, whatever they have. And they both jam. I completely brick turn and river. And yeah, this player has pocket 9s. This player had pocket 6s. I'm not really sure. I guess 23, yeah, 23, 24 big blinds is, that's actually 40-something big blinds. But I knew that I had a ton of equity versus a lot of their range. Basically, I can get myself 9 outs versus anything that I know I'm beat by. Basically 5s and 6s that are not ever going to fold this if you're a fish. So 36% I'm giving myself versus all the value range. And I mean, I'm not going to really give them all the sets, just the ones that I'm ahead of. And of course, again, he might want to call me with like a ace queen or diamonds or something like that. Yeah, but I think I should have squeezed bigger. Definitely should have squeezed bigger. So I'm gonna make a note about that. And I don't really know. I mean, I think that that's fine. I think that it's, I think the pot size that occurred on the flop allows me to just kind of bet and hope for the best. Ace Jack offsuit. Of course, if I squeezed bigger, it would have been easier to do that. It would have been like a $24 pot, and they'd have like $20 remaining, so I would have been more comfortable with it. So I'm going to turn Ace Jack offsuit into a bluff here. I'm actually squeezing all the limps. I just want to collect all the dead limp money. But this player, this whale, decides to limp call my squeeze. And I'm just going to check, turn it into a bluff catcher here. And because I turned it into a bluff catcher, I expect a lot of spades to be bluffing the turn. And something like King Jack or King Queen, even a weaker ace at this point, might want to bet, yeah, might want to bet the turn. They're a very, very fishy player. And so I just decided to check jam to this pot bet, basically. Ace 2 offsuit, very weak player right here. Pocket 6s, I check raise. 18-15, he doesn't seem to be too fishy. The turn breaks, which is really nice. I bomb it, and he jams, and I'm very happy calling this off. And ace jack off suit. I mean, it just goes to show that you should never slow play your strong hands because they're going to stack off with over pairs and top pairs and things like that. So that was a nice pot. Pocket queens. I decided to squeeze the pocket queens here. This is the same player that I just stacked with the ace with the pocket sixes, and he's raising early position, calls my squeeze, and then I decide to check because I expect him to have a lot of ace X's, like ace queens and ace kings, that are gonna maybe want to bet their wheel draw with overs, or overpair like pocket eights or pocket nines that think that they're up against ace king. And so my plan was to check raise, make it look a little bluffy. And he had pocket five, so he flops a set, turns a boat, and my queens are completely smoked. So we're a little bit deeper, and a whale opens for 150, and I have a fishy player in the blinds, and this player isn't very squeeze happy. AZ Daniel, he's not gonna be getting out of line too often, so I'm pretty happy. I decided to check back the flop. I mean, I probably could have just bet that, but I don't expect a lot of folds from like a fish and a whale on a queen 5-5 flop. So I turn a straight draw, and this player bets really small, and then I get raised pretty big. This player calls, and now the pot is $28, and it's 10. Well, it's $9. It's $9 more for me to call, so that's actually 9 divided by 36. Okay, so the board is paired, and I need to pretty much avoid a heart in order to get value from this whale. Because the whale called, I think that he might actually have like maybe like a queen ace or like a king X at this point. So I think that I can get value from them on the river if I hit straight with a non-heart. So I have 25% equity to call, and I'm looking for like maybe 6 outs would be the perfect number, which is 12%, or 16% even if the straight hits, which I'm not going to really be able to do much with because then the flush comes out. So I'm really looking for 12% on a paired board, and I know that obviously he could have fought the boat or something like that. I could be drawing dead, but I make the call, and I hit the Miracle River card. The one that I wanted was an ace rather than a 9, because it could give him queen ace or king ace. And so what happens is that this player shoves, this player snap shoves himself. He didn't tank, he just snap shoves. 56. And the snap shove made me think like it's not a boat. I'm not going to give him credit for kings or aces because that would have been such a stupidly played kings or aces if he checks the flop and then like min bets the turn. So I'm thinking a lot of the time he's going to have king ace or also jack 10 suited, something that isn't like the uber nuts, because the uber nuts would sort of take some time to bet some of the time. And it's not like he's rivering the uber nuts if he had a boat, is that he would have had time to think about it already. So I make the call. I think I'm ahead of him sometimes. if he has ace king, and then also we're chopping some of the time. I don't think this player has a boat because he seems a little fishy as well. And he flopped a boat, so this player flops a boat. Still though, I think yeah, I'm gonna give myself a tick for this hand as well, only because I don't think I should have called the turn raise. Trying to bank a non-heart to complete a straight, but I don't know. I mean, this hand, this kind of sucks. I river the perfect card, and the guy slow plays a boat, snap jams all in. It just seems so fishy the way he played it. It didn't feel like a boat to me. It really didn't. It just didn't feel like a boat. It felt like he hit a hand that he was drawing to, or that he improved on the river and then he snap jams, not that he already had the boat and then snap jams, if that makes sense. It's not like it was a surprise to him. It felt like it was a surprise whenever he snap jams all in. It was like this player shoves, boom, snap jam, and then I call. No hesitation. It was immediate whenever he jammed all in for like another 100 big blinds to me after I draw to the Broadway. I think it was just bad luck, and my read, everything was just set up for disaster on this. But yeah, so that looks like it's 3 hands that I gave myself ticks for. 36 minutes, actually. I could probably get I want to try to get another session in here. Oh, that one has a lot of hands. Wow. Okay. Let's get started. So yeah, it's 3:40 a.m. now, and we're gonna try to get another 21 hands in. So we're gonna go pretty quick. Jack 10 offsuit. I bet. I check. And I check. And he has ace 10, and he bombs the river with the nut trips, and I have nothing to do except call. Pretty fishy player. Could be doing this with broken draws and things like that. Next hand. Opening 6-7 suited from the cutoff. A fishy player calls me. I bet. Get min raised. The guy half pots it. And his sizing on the river makes me feel like he's so full of shit right now that I just stubbornly call with my 6-7. I don't think he's gonna have a hand here almost ever. A Queen X is gonna want to jam, 8X is gonna want to jam. It just seems so spewy, like a 7-9 or broken clubs, something like that. Maybe ace 2 suited. So I call. It's a really good price on the river to call. And also the min raise on the flop. I get min raise on the flop. Like, what hand could he possibly have that wants to min raise me on the flop? Maybe he just turned quads? I don't know. But probably not. Pocket 10s? Getting min raised again with an overpair, and I don't really feel like jamming. So whenever he bets $3 on the turn, it's showing incredible weakness. And so whenever the other 2 comes out, I feel comfortable just donking for like a value bet. I'll probably fold to a shove, but he calls me, and I win pocket tens. Ace king off suit, I squeeze. This player cold calls my squeeze, like 25% of his stack basically, and I flop top pair. I bet, I get jammed on, and he turned 8 king off suit. So this player is a huge whale, calls my squeeze with 8 king off suit, 25% of his stack. I'm gonna mark him as an ATM. I get min 3 bet. I 4 bet pretty small because his stack size is pretty small. And he calls. So I just make I just jam. Actually, if he has any piece of the board, he's gonna call because he's a whale. And he had 10 queen off suit, so I avoid some bullets there. 6-10 suited. I flop 2 pair, and I bet, and I bet, and I get min raised. So I'm not gonna fold to this min raise here. And he turned a straight. I'd make a note about this, that he min raises like nutty hands. He doesn't like raise really big with his nutty hands. He just tries to get a little bit of value. For the price, I expect to see a little bit of spew sometimes, and also weaker 2 pairs like 6-5, 8-5, 10-5, 6-8. I already said chopping with 6-10, and like I said, some spew some of the time. So I'm happy making that river call. Being min raised in my big blind by a nitty player, giving me a really good price to call since we're a little bit deeper as well. I check call, I check raise, and then I value bet the river. And actually I think I probably should have bet the river a little bit bigger because it looks like he has a queen at this point. I probably could have gone like 13, 14, 13.50, just get like an extra $2-3 out of him. Because I don't think he's folding like a queen ace or queen king at this point. Queen jack maybe. 10-9 suited, maybe. He had queen 9. He actually rivered 2 pair. I didn't know that at the time, obviously, but I could have gotten more value, I think, with just a slightly bigger bet. And also maybe the 9. I probably could have made it like 9.50, and then made it like 13.50 or 14 on the river, get like an extra $3 out of this hand. Yeah, I'm actually going to make a note about this. And queen 10 suited, check, raise, too small, river value, too small. If I feel like I can squeeze out an extra $2 or $3 here and there in each, like every 5 or 6 hands, that's actually gonna help the win rate quite tremendously. Pocket 7s, being 3 bet by a pretty weak player. This player is not very strong player, and I shouldn't be saying that because, well, this is yeah, this is actually another hand that I wasn't thinking. So it's a 6-9-10 king run out to a double barrel. The board isn't like super drawy here. I probably should have just given it up on the turn. $12. $12 is actually the amount of money that you would expect to win every 1,000 hands, like with the 2.5 BB win rate. So I mean, I should have been more careful with pocket sevens here. I have like third paired the board, and I probably was in my head. I didn't really think about the sizings and all that stuff, and I'm thinking like I have pocket sevens. I also have a gut shot. He could have like club draws with pair and all this stuff, and probably just checks the river. But at the same time, I mean, $12 bet is pretty strong. I'm being 3-bet. The king hits his range. Pocket 10s and 9s hit his range. Jack queen hits his range. And it was a pretty fishy call for me on the turn. Actually, pretty fishy. I really believe that that was probably like the worst hand that I've played. The worst call I made in the past like 5,000 hands. I'm being 3-bet by a pretty tight player. Well, a loose 3-better. So I feel like whenever the turn hits a 10 and he bets after checking the flop, he's not gonna really have much, unless maybe he hit a set, like a set of 9s or something, and he wants to check. But I get sticky with ace king here. I hit a king on the river, which actually set me up for failure, because this player has jack 10 suited. Actually, well, we were pretty deep, and I didn't want to 4-bet and then get 5-bet, or get 4-bet and have the flop come like king 10 deuce, and then have him like check raise me really freaking big when I flop like top pair. Like, just I wanted to protect my stack, because as you can see, actually we were oh, you know what? Never mind, scratch that. This hand, because he has 11% 3-bet, I probably should have just 4-bet him and then call it off. His 4-bet's 25% and 3-bet's 11%. This would have been a really, really good time to 4-bet. Just to win the money that was in the pot, basically. Didn't 4-bet versus an 11% 3-better. But I mean, I'm not gonna say this is actually not even like, it's not even bad. Like, nobody could really argue that I should have 4-bet, because if he's gonna be 3-betting, that means that his range is gonna be really, really weak. Like jack 10 suited is a pretty weak range, but he could also had a lot of weaker kings and a lot of weaker aces. So I think that this is just bad luck for me. I can't be folding the top pair whenever it hits on the river. He could be betting clubs. He could be getting like jack queen or 7-8 or something like that. I mean, you could argue that he would have bet that on the flop, but I'm not really sure that he'd be checking the boat either. After he 3-bets and I call, he'd probably just put like a half pot value bet in if he flops a set. So he has 10x, he checks the 10 and then bets the trips. So I think that that was just bad luck for me. But I don't know, maybe his range is so wide, I don't think I should be folding ace king there until I get a better sense for how he plays. So I open and I get dunked into by a whale, and then he pots the turn and then half pots the river when the king comes out, and I'm like, I don't think he has a king. I'm pretty much gonna have to call this one. And he has ace 4 offsuit, just spewing with ace 4 off. He's a whale, so like queens are the nuts here usually. Yeah, it's a fine hand. This player min opens and king queen offsuit I have here, and there's a lot of fishy players behind me, and then a whale over here that might squeeze. So I'm actually pretty happy having him squeeze with all these fishy players calling, and then the pot's gonna be like 20 something dollars, and maybe I'll flop like a king queen 4 flop or something like that. But yeah, so as you see, he doesn't squeeze too big, but he does like min 3 bet, min 4 bet. So I call, and flop comes king high. That's 250. At this point, I don't feel like I need to get too crazy. Now this player bet. It's just such a fish fest. This player leads for 250, and now this player leads for 250. This player min raises, and at this point, again, like, I think that I just want to leave in their bluff range. Like, if they just want to spew bluff and just be like complete freaking fish, I'm fine with that. The river bricks, I'm pretty much guaranteed to have the nuts here. This player bets 5. This player calls 5, so I'm getting massive value out of this hand just from all these $2.50 and $5 bets. As you see, the pot is already at $40, and I have yet to raise. So I don't think they have anything too strong here. This player could have like ace 4, this player could have ace 4. I mean, I don't know. I don't really feel like I need to raise too big. They both fold. It's just the most awkward, strange hand I've been in for a very long time. But I do win a very nice pot, and I think I played this hand very, very well. Very nicely. I probably maybe could have put a raise in on the turn. Yeah, I think that my mistake was that on the turn, I probably should have raised to get value from 5-6, ace 5, ace 2, weaker kings. But it really just didn't seem like anybody had anything. I didn't really want to scare them out. And actually, my plan was that they might spew the river and just do something really spewy. So, as you can see, they didn't have shit, or else they would have called. So yeah, I mean, either way, I get a pretty good pot there. Flop a set. Turn quads. At this point, I want to give him odds to call gut shots and straight draws and things like that. Queen X, I want Queen X to call, I want King X to call. And when he calls this bet, it's going to be 16, 30, 35 plus 8 is 43, $44, something like that. Yeah, like 44. And then that means that if I want to, I could jam 30 into 43, but I think my turn bet should have been a little bit bigger. I think it should have been like maybe 1050 or 1150, and then if it was 1150 or 11, that would have been an extra $3 or $6. So then it would have been like 50, and I would have had 26 or 25. So it would have been like a half pot PSB, whatever you call that. I just shoved like half pot basically on the river. So quads turn sizing too small. It was too small. Yeah. It's not because I turn quads that I'm baby betting. It's really that I didn't mean to make it that small. I definitely wanted to go less than half pot, but yeah. So on the river, I don't think that I can successfully jam a lot of the time, because like king tens and king jacks might fold. This player doesn't seem too fishy, but yeah. So I put a value bet in on the river, but I messed up the hand because if I bet the turn a little bit bigger, then I could have comfortably shoved like 25 and a 50 and gotten another $11 or so worth of value out of it. And this player actually showed ace king. He didn't jam ace king on the river against me. So, yeah. I believe that I missed value. I meant to set myself up for a river shove, but I didn't calculate the price in my head. So whenever I finally got to the river, it was I think that shoving might have been too much. And of course I don't know that he has ace king. Like how did that action go? Oh yeah, okay, so you see I'm actually 3-betting this player. This player cold calls. So I'm thinking like queen king might actually just shove. Ace queen might want to call a river bet. King jack. I mean, Jesus, like what else? Pocket jacks? I don't know, I mean, I guess. So what I was thinking is I didn't think he had jack king. And I figured that if he had king queen or ace king, he's probably gonna want to he might actually just call me or jam, and I'll get his money anyway. But it's probably just because I wasn't paying attention. I lost track of the action. Looking back, now that he's calling my 3-bet, cold calls my 3-bet, I gotta give him like king queen and ace king a lot of the time. And I probably should have just jammed the river, but either way, I misplayed that hand. The turn sizing should have been bigger. I should have then jammed the river. And this is a squeeze right here. This is a squeeze. So there's 425, ace king offsuit. Boom, I drop it. Boom, I drop that shit. So ace king off is you know, it's a bluffy hand. I like to think of ace king offsuit as like a bluff. This 97.54 33% 3-bet, one of the wildest stats you could possibly have. Opens for 150 and then like basically min 4-bets me, and I rip it in. I'm like, let's go fish. Let's go. Let's flip. And as you see, the money is going to them, and I know you're never gonna guess what hand they have. I guarantee it. I'd give you like 20 guesses. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there it is. So 4-3 offsuit stacks off with 4-3 offsuit to my massive squeeze. And yeah, never bluff me. It's a good name, I guess. Pocket kings. As you see, I'm getting sucked down on quite a lot. I'm losing a lot of pots that I really shouldn't be losing. But I mean, ace king versus 3-4 isn't like is not like a fist pump. I mean, it is, but I mean, 3-4 is still live. So I flop the top set here, and there's really nothing that I can do other than just to bomb the flop. A lot of draws, and hey, maybe he has a king, you know. So I get raised on the flop, and I don't like slow playing things like this. Like there's no reason to, so I raise him back. It looks a little bluffy too to some people if you're really fishy, like this player is 71-14. You could see this as like a bluffy move, like I might be being bluffy. And so he calls me, The turn breaks. If he has 8-9, I'm just gonna cry. But there's nothing that I can do other than just value bet again. And a Miracle River card comes out. And I bet, and they call, and they have ace king offsuit. So, you know, congratulations to me. They have ace king offsuit, and I win a really nice pot there. Only because like I'm not afraid of betting the flop big, and also 3-betting the flop, or 4-betting the flop, whatever you would call that. So I'm being 3-bet by a fishy player. I have position with 10 queen suited. I'm very happy to call this. Very, very happy to call this versus a fish with position. If I was out of position, I probably would have just folded because I don't like being out of position. I flop a straight draw. I turn the nuts, and then look at this. Oh my god. Mouth watering right here. Wow. I just basically ascended into heaven on this hand. This player is over shoving the pot massively whenever I turn the nuts. Let's see how I get beat. Do I get beat? No. I win the pot, and he had overpair of queens. Sick, sick hand right there. Queen 9 suited. So okay, so I'm raising the button, and I c-bet. I flush draw, and I get raised. So I'm not gonna go anywhere. I got a flush draw. I got backdoor draws as well. And I mean, hey, he could be doing this with like weaker flush draw as well. So he bets $11, and I don't really see a need to raise at this point. If the board doesn't pair, then I can jam the river. But as played, this weak player jams, and I can't do anything other than call because I have like the second nuts. I mean, again, like just random shit happening to me. Donations all over the place today. King 9 offsuit. He had no draws, no equity whatsoever, and stacks off for 100 big blinds on a random ass bluff. Yeah. Actually, oh, this player is 38.5. I didn't really feel like squeezing because that's a pretty big open size. But this whale here decides to call, and I decide to call with ace queen. At this point, I should just be betting this to get value from back to back. If Hootie has pocket tens, ace king, he's not gonna, well, call ace king, but yeah, as you see, he folds maybe pocket tens, pocket nines, something like that. So I just want to immediately start building a pot versus this whale right here. Whenever the 7 comes out, I don't really expect that to help him too much. It actually opens up more draws for him. The spade, like Jack X of spades, or like 8-9 of spades, or something like that. So I make the call. Pot's $30, and he shoves 43. So now the pot will. Basically, I have a pretty good price to call this. The pot's already big enough, I feel, to where I should call this off, because they are a whale, and you already saw earlier that the guy had king 9. Like, you never know what they have. I have a really strong hand right now, but he turns to pair with 7 queen suited. So sometimes they have value, sometimes they have air balls. You never really know. So what just happened here? Okay, so this player is 3-betting, and I have pocket 9s, and this is really borderline. I think if I had pocket 8s, I'd probably be folding. Not like it really makes a difference, but I mean, if I have pocket 8s, they could have pocket 9s. You know what I mean? Like, I think 8s would be like the lowest I would go for just flatting this out of position. But I mean, even so, I think pocket 9s is pretty marginal. But I'm not going to give myself any ticks. Check, check. Bet. I'm going to call that. And I mean, look at this. This is another hand I remember. I check again just to induce a bluff. And then boom, he overshoves the pot when I river basically the nuts. I mean, I know it's not the nuts, but super fishy overshove. No reason he should ever be doing this. And he had jacks. Very badly played. A weak player right here. And I like to get a lot of pots with this player. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just getting donation after donation. Except for the ace-queen hand. Oof, what is this? Okay, so 15% 4-bet. It's pretty high. 8% 3-bet. Seems like a pretty loose player. Bet flop of 76, 8.4 squeeze, 4.1 aggression factor. Yeah, I have this player tagged as a lag. One of the very few lags. I can easily see him doing this with ace king. There's already like so much money in the pot, he might just be like, okay, I'm gonna YOLO this and just, you know, basically commit myself with ace king. But yeah, he has kings this time, and I think that's just bad luck. I'd expect ace king a lot of the time, and also maybe pocket 10s, pocket 9s some of the time with a 15% 4-bet. And he knows that I can be 3-betting with less than jacks as well. But I mean, it is against his under the gun range. At the same time, I do have jacks, and he is pretty aggressive. He's a pretty aggressive player. Like over here, 0% 4-bet over 400 hands. I've got a 10% 4-bet over 13,000. 16% 4-bet over here. I think that's pretty standard. Jacks. This is another cooler right here. 26% 4-bet over 600 hands, and I have kings. And this player jams for a little bit over 100 big blinds. Oh wait, I'm sorry. He 4-bets me. And I want to make it look like I have ace king, or like 10s or jacks or something like that, so I just decided to overshove, over like 5-bet shove basically. And he has the ace of spades as well. So that's unfortunate. Yeah. I mean, pocket aces. Oh, okay, so it's a 4-way. I bet half pot. Like I'm completely prepared to fold to a raise here. But now whenever the queen comes out, it allows somebody to bluff, or maybe like overbet their queen with like a queen of diamonds draw or something. Now this player here, this 51-4 player, the one that just overshoved the pot for like $134, I've been keeping an eye on them, and they are extremely psychotic. Like what I would call, there's like the whale level, and then above that I call them the psycho whale, where it's like whale squared. Like they just do the dumbest shit, and they're just so fucking random. But as you see, I tanked quite hard here. But then I'm like, well, I've seen this guy do some crazy, crazy shit already, even after 127 hands. Not with me in the pot, but other people. I've seen him do some crazy shit. So I just decided to call. And I'm like, whatever, you know, let's YOLO this. As you see, the money's going to me, even whenever the worst card in the deck came out. My heart stopped when that card came out, but then the chips immediately came to my direction. And as you see, right here, the holy grail of bluffs. This is like, wow, this is textbook bluffing right here. I don't know who coached this guy, but that was a solid bluff right there with deuce 4 offsuit. But as you see, another donation to me, and that concludes my video. So peace out, everybody. I have another session to review. What is this? 7 hands that not all of them are like completely donkey hands, but it's just little things here and there. 7 hands that I feel like I could have played a little bit better. And I'm gonna keep a running list of these hands, and then also maybe just make a video, like a master video of all the hands that I feel like I maybe misplayed. So yeah, okay, peace out. See you next time.